Part 2, Marrying into a Rich Family. The whole table was silent and stunned, looking at Tran Tran because they knew that Tran Tran was Jia Min's unforgettable love. She was a beautiful, charming, and extremely talented girl. As far as everyone knew, 4 years ago, Tran Tran was the one who left him to pursue her dream of becoming a Hollywood star. He was very heartbroken when she left him because she was his first love. People say that first love is the most beautiful, a love that can be let go but cannot be forgotten. Jia Min said seriously, "When did you return to the country? I heard that you got married. Who told you?" The young master of a large corporation, more or less all the online newspapers have posted it. "I don't need anyone to tell me, Jia Min. Actually, I was only allowed to return to the country for a short time. Today I sincerely came to congratulate you and your husband. And I also want to see how capable that girl is to marry you." She glanced at Nu. "If you sincerely came to congratulate, then please join everyone at the party. I have a small gift to give you and your husband." She approached and handed the gift box to Nu. Her eyes glanced at her insincerely. "This is for you. Be happy." Nu smiled and reached out to receive the gift. "Thank you. Coming is fun, why do you need gifts? I think my family doesn't lack anything." Hearing her say that, Tran Tran's expression changed but the corner of her lips still curled into a gentle smile. "A blessing gift." She put Tran Tran's gift box on the table and poured a glass of wine for Tran Tran. "This glass of wine is my way of thanking you for the gift." Then she turned to him and said, "Husband, since we're all here, we're all guests, so you should at least be sincere in offering us a drink." She winked at Jia Min. Jia Min nodded and handed the glass to Tran Tran. "Your wife said so, then you also invited me to a drink. Am I simply your guest?" Jia Min, "Yes." Coldly replied, "What if I said I still care about you?" After saying that, Tran Tran glanced at Nu. Actually, she didn't really care. She knew that she was trying to provoke her, but unfortunately for her, she provoked the wrong person. On the contrary, she found it interesting. She was no stranger to the tricks of the mistresses. She had witnessed too many because she watched romance movies every day. Her facial expression was still the same, strangely calm. She didn't know if this girl was an A-list or B-list star, but from what she saw, her nerve was broken, more or less. He was her husband now. And she still brazenly said that she still cared about him even though she was standing right here. "If that's the case, I'll tease you even more until you pop out your eyes." She smiled brightly and took his hand and said, "Husband, I want to go over there and greet everyone." His friends understood and immediately spoke up, "That's right. It's late here, I should go and greet everyone." Partly because he also wanted to avoid Tran Tran, he immediately agreed. His hands reached down and tightly held hers, the action showing sweetness and happiness. Tran Tran had been standing still for a while now, watching the two figures gradually disappear into the crowd, her eyes starting to condense with tears that would soon flow. She really wasn't willing to accept it. After 4 years of constant struggle just to become a big star worthy of the Tran family's power, she had always assumed that he still loved her very much, which was shown when Lin said that in the past few years he had never loved anyone. Perhaps it was because he had not forgotten her. Unexpectedly, everything was beyond expectation. He got married a woman he did not love. "Oh. Look who's here, is this Tran Tran?" The voice echoed. She turned to look and realized it was Mrs. Ba. She wiped away her tears and bowed to her, "Third aunt. It's been a long time since we last saw each other. It seems like you're getting younger and more beautiful by the day. You're complimenting me too much. I haven't seen you for years and you're so beautiful now, little Tran. I heard that you're a big international star now. I sometimes watch your movies. I didn't expect you to be even more beautiful than on screen." "Thank you, Auntie. By the way, have you been back for a long time? Does Jia Min know you're here?" "Let me call him, Auntie. He knows." "He knows? Where's the boy?" "His wife wanted to go somewhere else to entertain guests so the two of them just left." "Seriously? Then I'll take you to see Grandma." "Yes." "I'm sorry." The third lady led Tran Tran to greet Grandma. Seeing Tran Tran, Grandma and Mrs. Sao's expressions were a bit unhappy. Jia Min was Grandma's most beloved grandchild. In the past, Tran Tran loved Jia Min, so Grandma loved her very much, but when she heard that she left him to go and fulfill her lofty dream and made him suffer, their feelings changed. Moreover, today was his wedding. Grandma did not want her to appear at all. Tran Tran smiled and bowed her head, calling softly, "Grandma, do you still remember me?" "I am Tran Tran." "Yes. Tran Tran. I remember because although I am old, I am not senile. I even remember everything that happened," the third lady eagerly spoke up, "Mom." Today, Tran Tran came back from abroad to congratulate Jia Min. "Mom, you know, she is very famous now." Grandma glanced at her, making the third lady know what to do and immediately shut up. Tran Tran smiled. "Aunt Ba is praising you too much." Grandma kept her face calm and said, "You becoming a big star is something worth celebrating. I wish you have fulfilled your long-standing dream. And today you came to congratulate Jia Min on his wedding. I thank you on behalf of the Tran family. I am old, so I am not interested in watching many movies, so I don't know how good you are at acting. Now I just like listening to stories at night to help me sleep." She forced a smile and replied to Grandma, "Yes, Grandma." "Thank you, Grandma." Grandma Sao said to Grandma, "But this old woman said she was not senile yet, but she is senile like this." Now Jia Min has a wife, his wife also calls him Grandma. Now Tran Tran is his ex-lover and also calls him Grandma. If his wife finds out, she will not be happy. You like grandsons, right? So now you have to let her be mentally comfortable so she can have a grandson for you. That's right. Then Tran Tran, please understand, just call me old lady. Yes ma'am, she replied resentfully. The third lady has been standing there all this time just listening and not daring to say anything more. I have to admit that the two of you are like the old ginger. The spicier it gets, the one who throws and the one who catches it are very compatible with each other. A very clever way of blaming. The third lady knows that Tran Tran's position is no longer important now. It seems there is no need to please her. After the party ended, Grandma said that the two of you should go upstairs to rest. Everyone down here will take care of everything. Her father-in-law is a man of few words. Now he also speaks up, Jia Min. Grandma said that, then take your wife upstairs to rest. Second mother, that's right. You two go upstairs first. He and she spoke up at the same time. Then we'll ask Grandma and Mom and Dad for permission. Then the two of them went forward to greet Mr. and Mrs. Duong. She looked at Mrs. Duong's eyes looking at him, her eyes wr. He nodded absent-mindedly, yes yes. You two go up. Looking at his absent-minded face, everyone thought he felt sorry for his daughter who married far away, but in fact he was feeling sorry for his own daughter. She hugged Mrs. Duong. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for everything, okay. Go up to your room with your husband, you don't need to see your parents off later, or they won't be able to bear to leave, he said. Then he took her hand and went up to her room. She tiredly followed him. The door closed, she immediately pulled her hand out of his, and sat down tiredly on the bed. Oh my God. I'm so tired, there are so many relatives and guests in your house, he said while taking off his tie. What's the point of that? It's just a part, oh my God. Is your family related to the whole village? He silently curled his lips and looked at her intently, then took a few steps forward, threw the vest on the bed, and unbuttoned his shirt, standing in front of her. Hey you, he remained silent, continuing to unbutton the remaining buttons. His firm six-pack body gradually revealed itself in front of her. She blinked a few times and then shyly covered her eyes with her hand. What do you want? What do you think I want? Don't be so naughty. At this moment, he completely took off his shirt and threw it on the bed, making her face start to feel hot. Even though she had already thought further in her mind, she still boldly spoke, I'm a bit tired today. Don't be rash, he sneered at her. What does being tired have to do with me taking a shower? After he finished speaking, he curled his lips and turned to walk into the bathroom. She was absent-mindedly thinking, have I been thinking too much lately? Honestly, inside, the sound of the faucet was pouring, and for some reason, her heart kept beating fast. She took a deep breath to calm down and looked around the room. Today's room was decorated more beautifully. Now she noticed that on the dressing table there was a beautiful vase of red roses, and at the end of her bed was a happy character. On the wall inside there was also a picture of a pair of twin boys who looked very cute. She didn't know how to describe her feelings at the moment, but it was very lively, when he came out of the bathroom. She also stood up to change her clothes. Unfortunately, this wedding dress had a lot of crisscross straps on the back, and it was very tiring to go find CUC now, so she boldly told him, "Hey, yeah, are you free? If you have anything to say it quickly. Come here and help me untie the straps of my skirt behind my back. Do it yourself. If I can do it, it's your turn to ask me." He stood behind her and untied her skirt. Each knot untied, her fair back gradually appeared, making his heart pound. His scent wafted near her, making her feel embarrassed. "Okay. Thank you." He walked out in a daze, trying to escape that abnormal train of thought and then calm his emotions. At 2 a.m., his phone rang. The volume was just loud enough to wake someone up. She opened her eyes and glanced at the phone number on the screen. He quietly turned off the phone, but then the call rang repeatedly. He glanced at her. She quickly closed her eyes and pretended to be in deep sleep. Then his quiet footsteps headed towards the balcony. The screen call showed a quadruple number. He pressed the answer button and Tran's voice rang out on the other end. She seemed drunk. "Hello? Jiamin? It's me. Am I bothering you on New Soul Night? Disturbing. Very disturbing. I'm sorry, did you call me for something? If there's nothing, I'll hang up. I'm very sad today. I'm sad because someone I love very much got married. I'm very sad, you know, it's late, go to bed early," he said and hung up the phone, sighing. The screen immediately showed a message, "I'm very sad right now. Can you come to me?" He glanced into the room and saw her still sleeping, sighed softly, then turned off the phone screen and lay down next to her. The next morning when she woke up, she saw him sitting across from her, his eyes intently reading the morning newspaper, his hand holding a cup of coffee and sipping. She sat up, stretched, then got out of bed. He saw that and put the newspaper on the table and said, "Are you awake? Yeah, if you're awake, change your clothes and come down for breakfast." As the eldest sister-in-law of this family, she should at least set an example for everyone to look up to and admire. I know. Little CUC prepared all her daily outfits every day. She wore a silk pajama set with a short-sleeved shirt and red pants and went downstairs. Entering the dining room, she saw Tran sitting next to Aunt Ut. She looked at her with wide eyes and then glanced at him. It seemed like he didn't know Tran was there either. Before she and he could say anything, Aunt Ut spoke up, "Big brother, sister-in-law. You two come in and have breakfast. Today's dishes are all the dishes that eldest brother likes." He looked down at the dining table and coldly replied, "Actually, people's tastes will change over time, as will people's hearts. These dishes are old." Tran's face was stiff and unhappy. She tried to smile and said, "After all, it's everyone's hard work from morning till now. Why are you here?" "Ah. I asked Grandma to let Tran stay here and play with me for a few days. After all, we are cousins and haven't seen each other for a long time. Grandma has agreed. I wonder if you guys have any opinions? Do you feel any inconvenience?" She smiled faintly and replied, "If Grandma has agreed, then Tran can stay here and play with Aunt Ut. Actually, my husband and I are not as petty as someone thinks." "Thank you," Tran said. He and she sat down at the dining table. She asked Aunt Ut, "Where are Grandma? Aunt Sao, second mother, third mother, fourth mother?" Everyone went to the temple in the other province early in the morning. It was getting ready for the Buddha's day, so everyone would go there 2 days earlier, so that's how it is. After a while, Jia Hung came down, and Jia Long was there too. Jia Long laughed and said, so delicious, so delicious." Then he ran over and sat between Nu and Tran. His stupid laugh made Tran extremely uncomfortable. If Jia Min wasn't here, this idiot would definitely die with her. Halfway through the meal, Jia Min got an urgent business call, so he left right away. At the dining table, there were only Aunt Ut and Tran. Her and Jia Long. A moment later, she also stood up and walked away. When she reached the lotus pond, Tran ran after her and called her back. Wait a minute." She turned around to see Tran running closer. her willow leaf eyebrows slightly furrowed as she said, "You're looking for me?" "Yes, I wonder if you're looking for me for something important. I heard that you and Jia Min had an arranged marriage and no love." "It's okay. It's more interesting to marry first and love later, than to love each other for a long time and then get bored of each other. Do you know that I'm the one Jia Min loves? I know you're my husband's ex-lover, but we've all been in love. My husband is very honest, he doesn't hide anything from me. He said you're his ex. Back then, we were a handsome couple. We loved each other so much that we thought we would never be apart. And up until now, I still believe that he still loves me very much." "That's because you believe it. Not because my husband thinks so. Usually, show-offs are often lacking in confidence. I'll only believe it when my husband says it." "You are really shameless." "Hey, you over there. You said who is shameless. You suddenly fell from the sky and then said you miss someone else's husband. I am a good person. If you come to someone else, they will beat you up." "You?" She smiled and walked away. Before leaving she did not forget to turn back and say, "That's right. Thank you for abandoning my husband so I have a chance to take care of him." She walked quickly back to her room. When she entered the room she slammed the door and held her stomach, rolling on the floor laughing. CUC asked in confusion, "What are you doing laughing like you're having a good time, even more than having a good time?" Little CUC saw her happy so she was also happy. She eagerly asked, "So what happened that made you so happy? Tell me, you made me so curious," she said while laughing. "Do you know that Tran girl who is your eldest uncle's ex-lover?" She thought for a while and then spoke. "Oh. I remember now, when I came back here for a while, she came here to play a few times, but then I didn't see her anymore. Since then, my eldest uncle has been in America and has been coming back less often. That's it. She just provoked you. I thought you would be angry, but unexpectedly you provoked her back." Looking at her at that time, she looked like a chicken with ruffled feathers. "I looked so funny, huh? Wow. You're so good. But I'm asking you this, if he and Tran still have feelings for each other, will you be jealous?" "No. Why would you be jealous? You're his wife now. Being his wife doesn't mean you'll love him. You don't love him now, but you'll love him later. It would be strange if you didn't love someone like him, cold and stubborn. How could you love him? Then you should try. I still have you. I bet you'll love him soon, but let's put that aside for now. Now I have something to ask you, CUC." "Yes. Ask me, I will answer you right away. This morning, I heard Aunt Ut say that there is a Buddhist holiday coming up." "What is it?" "Oh. The old lady is a Buddhist. As the Buddha's birthday is coming up, the old lady will prepare to worship on the 5th floor. There is a large Buddha shrine there, Aunt. The old lady and everyone else take this day very seriously, so absolutely no one can make any mistakes on that day, Aunt, so that's it." "But what will you prepare for the offering, CUC?" "Just vegetarian dishes, Aunt. Each daughter-in-law in the family will have to make a dish herself to show respect." She nodded and smiled. Actually, if we talk about cooking, her skills are not bad. She has been cooking for Mr. and Mrs. Duong's family for years, and their family is famous for being picky eaters, and she can still serve them. CUC said, "Okay, you rest, I'll go down and clean up. If you need anything, call me, okay?" "CUC, you go, I can take care of myself." CUC left. She remembered about Mr. and Mrs. Duong. They hadn't called to ask about their situation since last night. She took out her phone and dialed Mrs. Duong's number. The phone rang 3 times before someone picked up. She hurriedly said, "Hello, madam. It's me, you don't need to report, I know it's you. You're very good, now that you're married, you've forgotten me, right? What are you talking about? If I forgot you, I wouldn't have called you first. Then why did you only call me from yesterday until now?" "I was afraid that my grandparents would be tired from the journey, so I didn't want to bother them. You're just a chatterbox. Do you know that my husband and I spent the whole night regretting it?" She thought to herself, it was your grandparents' choice. Although she thought that, she didn't say it out loud, only gently encouraging her. "Okay, I know. I'm grateful for what the lady gave me. I will never forget it in this life." You remember your mouth. If you say it, you must do it. Whatever you do, you must remember your parents who are still in the countryside. If you're so careless, I'll deal with your whole family. Well, I know that, so I didn't do anything against your wishes. Okay, I have to go about my business now. I won't be angry with you. Oh, that's right, the necklace I gave you yesterday, remember to keep it safe. When you have a chance to go back to the countryside, bring it back here to me, I know. Goodbye, Grandma. She had just hung up the phone when the door opened. She turned around in surprise and saw her husband standing right in front of her. She looked at him blankly for about 30 seconds before asking, "When did you come back?" "I came back to get my clothes and documents. Please help me pack my clothes. I have to go on a business trip for a few days." Hearing him say he was going on a business trip for a few days made her feel a little disappointed. What was this feeling? It was probably because she and he had just gotten married, so of course he would feel lonely if he left. "What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and prepare my clothes. Or are you sad that I have to go away for a few days and miss me? If you miss me, just say so. I will let you go with me. Are you crazy? Why would I miss you? I don't have time, and besides, my mind is currently occupied with thinking about better things." Pfft. Are you sure? His eyes asked curiously. "Well, of course I'm sure. Who would miss you?" She went to the wardrobe, picked out a few black, white, and gray shirts for him, then folded them neatly in the black suitcase. After a while taking out her pants, she suddenly remembered and turned back to continue speaking. "But that's not true. I was wrong when I said who would miss you earlier, and now I want to correct it." "Why? Missing me? No. I should have said that only Tran Tran misses you." Hearing her say that, his expression changed. His voice became a little more annoyed. "Hurry up and pack your things." "Nosy, it's done." She zipped up the suitcase and picked it up and handed it to him. He looked at her and said, "Leave it there and follow me." "Where else to go?" "You'll know when you go." He led her to the small garden at the back of the house. The four corners of the garden were planted with beautiful flowers. In the middle of the garden was a tall mango tree. Under the mango tree was a round wooden table and chairs. In the distance there was even a hanging orchid. Stepping into the garden, she felt like she was entering a poetic fairyland, a very comfortable and strangely peaceful feeling. Her eyes lit up when she saw the green parrot talking. "Jia Min. Jia Min." She smiled brightly and ran towards the parrot and said, "Hello. Hello, parrot. Call me Duan." The parrot was silent. He walked towards her and said, "Call it boy boy, boy." "Boy, yes. Just call it boy boy and it can respond to the words you want it to say. Is that so? And did you raise it?" "Yes. It's very smart. Maybe even smarter than you." She turned around and glared at someone. He sneered and said to the parrot, "Boy boy. Call me stupid, stupid." "Stupid?" She pursed her lips and looked at him, teasing her. She said to the parrot, "Boy boy. Call me beautiful Duan, Duan." "Duan." She smiled brightly and interestedly at the parrot. This was the first time she had seen a parrot speak so clearly and intelligently. Jia Min stood behind her and slowly spoke. "Actually, I don't trust you that much. But Bei Bei is very important to me, so during the days I'm away on a business trip, please take care of it for me because you are my wife after all." Because she was interested in the parrot, she didn't ask much more, and immediately nodded in agreement. Okay. If something happens to it, you'll definitely die. I know." "Okay, I have to go now." "Okay, go." He frowned at her. She didn't even bother to look back at him. He was annoyed and shouted even louder, "Duong Duan." She startled and turned to look at him. "What are you doing calling so loudly? I'm not deaf. Go home and bring my things down to the car for me." She looked at him resentfully, muttering as she walked, "The house is full of people and you're making up stories. What did you just say? You hear it. It's what it is. You? Don't think that just because I'm a little easy on you means I love you. I didn't say you love me. You said it yourself." He was about to speak again when his assistant arrived. "Young master. It's almost time to fly. We have to go there to catch the flight." "Okay." He walked ahead, she followed behind. A few steps later, she spoke up. "Oh, right. I forgot to ask where you went on your business trip." He was silent and said nothing, so she explained further. "I asked in case Grandma asked. After all, we are husband and wife. if anything happens, everyone will blame me for where my husband went, and if I don't know, it's terrible. Macau, he answered briefly. She frowned and thought for a moment before asking again, is Macau the land of casinos and long-legged girls? You're not as simple as I thought. She scratched her head in amazement. What's not simple? You know that from watching movies, but have you ever been there? All his belongings were prepared by his assistant in the car. He got into the car, glanced at her but didn't say goodbye. The car started moving, a strange feeling welled up in her. She felt a little sad, as if something was missing. At 7 p.m., Grandma and everyone returned from the temple. According to the rules, she went from her room to the main hall to greet everyone. When she arrived, she saw Aunt Ut and Tran Tran there. As soon as she saw her, the third lady spoke up. Duan, come in here, my child. She gently greeted everyone. Yes. Grandma and everyone have returned from the temple. Grandma nodded, took out 2 red bracelets, gave them to her, and spoke kindly. This is a love bracelet, one for me, one for Jia Min. Both of you should always wear it with you. This string is a couple string with many meanings, like being together and inseparable. If one of the two is lost, it will be completely meaningless. Just like you and your husband. She reached out to take the bracelet, moved, and said, thank you, Grandma. She continued, also, this is a talisman of peace and luck. The host personally gave it to me. I will give you one for good luck. The second lady smiled and said, Duan, please accept the fortune from Grandma. Grandma really appreciates it. The sixth lady added, it also has the effect of warding off evil spirits. Then I would like to accept this meaningful gift from Grandma. Once again, I would like to thank Grandma very much, the fourth lady said. Today the host carefully checked your ages. I heard that you are compatible in every way. Besides, this year or next year is the best year to have a child because you are compatible with both your fate and zodiac. And it is April now. You and your husband should try to welcome a new member to the Tran family next spring. Hearing what the fourth lady said, she could only nod and say yes. Tran Tran and Aunt Ut had been standing opposite Duan for a while now. Seeing her receiving everyone's attention, they could not help but feel jealous in their hearts. Especially Tran Tran, she clenched her hands tightly, her long nails dug into her palms and left marks. Just then, her phone rang with a call from her assistant, Ms. Tran Tran. According to the schedule tonight, we have an appointment with VTC TV about the movie project, The Replacement. They want you to be the female lead, The Replacement. She spoke and everyone turned to look at her before realizing she was talking on the phone. She smiled and answered. No need to meet. Just send me the script. Aunt Ut saw that and asked, are you planning to stay in Vietnam to make a movie? This time when I come back to the country, I was invited to many projects so I was hesitant to refuse. Actually, I think I should contribute a little to the country's film industry. That's great. We will have more time together. Yes. Immediately after that, Grandma spoke to Nu, as if she didn't care about the conversation between the other two. That's right. Is Jia Min on a business trip abroad again? Yes, ma'am. I heard he went to Macau. Mrs. Sao, is the company short of people or something that the boy had to leave right after getting married? It must be a very important matter, ma'am. It's okay, Grandma, we'll be together for life, she said happily. This little girl is right. She's really like the eldest aunt of the Tran family. She knows how to think ahead. Anyway, go back to your room and rest. Tomorrow morning you still have to wake up early, yes. If Grandma said so, then I'll excuse myself. When she passed the lotus pond, she saw 2 maids coming from afar. It seemed like they were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't see her. Did you hear anyone crying in the middle of the night last night? I didn't, but this morning, Miss Tran Tran asked me. I wonder who else is crying in the middle of the night, who has the time to wake up and cry like that? Maybe it's a ghost. A gust of wind blew by. The two glanced at the lotus pond, then looked at each other and ran. She frowned at the two of them and called them back. You two wait or go. The two of them stopped and looked at her. First Aunt, yes. Why are you two running like ghosts are chasing you? If we don't run fast, the ghost will catch up with us, Aunt. She looked around and laughed. She had been herding cows and buffaloes near the cemetery for years and had never seen a ghost, let alone in such a solemn place. What are these two people joking about? Where did the ghosts come from? one of the maids spoke up. I'm telling the truth, Auntie. You have to believe us. Yesterday I heard crying with my own ears in the middle of the night, and I also heard the sound of water trickling. I wasn't the only one who heard it. This morning Auntie Tran Tran also told me the same thing. Have these people run out of things to joke about? There are no ghosts in this world. Besides, if you don't do anything bad, even if the ghosts come, you won't be afraid. Auntie, we're not joking, we're just telling you to be careful. You don't know, there was a maid who drowned in this lotus pond before. I heard people say that she died unjustly and her soul couldn't be released to reincarnate. She pondered, each gust of wind passing by made her arms crawl. Then she remembered what Jia Long said about the corpse. After that, the two maids asked for permission to leave. She tried to ask more, but wait. Was that girl who died unjustly named Juni? One maid quickly answered. That girl died before we got here, so I don't know. The other maid stood there thinking, then vaguely said, but it seems like her name is Juni, Auntie. Once when I was serving the old lady, I heard the housekeeper ask about the memorial service for the girl named Juni. Okay, you two can go now. Yes, then we will take our leave first. You should go back to your room too, Auntie. The two maids left. The wind blew stronger, the flowers and lotus leaves swayed and swayed against each other. She glanced out into the middle of the lake. She was indeed a little scared, but compared to being scared, she was more curious. She wanted to know the truth of this story. The first person she thought of was little Cuc. She had been here for a long time, so she should know more or less the story. She quickly turned around and looked for the maids' quarters. Having just entered the Tran family, she was still confused about the rooms. Well, for now, she would just walk and look. Luckily there were signs in all the rooms, so there was no fear of entering the wrong room. After wandering around for a while, she suddenly saw a shadowy figure behind the star apple tree. She took each step very gently towards her despite her heart beating very fast. Compared to being afraid of white-headed ghosts, she was more afraid of black-headed ghosts, or more accurately, thieves. The distance between her steps and the tree was only about a meter away when suddenly that person turned around and made a loud boo sound, causing her to freeze, her mouth opening and closing. Uncle, Jia Long held the bun in his hand and smiled at her. He quickly put the whole bun in his mouth and chewed it. She hurriedly said, "Eat slowly or you'll choke. Jia Long likes to eat dumplings." "Okay, Jia Long, just eat. Don't worry, I won't take yours, eat slowly." She looked closely behind Jia Long. It seemed like there was a stack of papers. She asked curiously, "Oh, what's that behind that guy? Can I see it?" She finished speaking and saw his eyes change a bit, becoming confused. Then he hugged the stack of papers and ran straight ahead. She sighed and thought to herself, this person is really hard to understand. Right after that, she forgot about going to find Cuc to ask about that ghost. She returned to her room, stepped into the room. The scent of his clothes still lingered in the room, making her feel strangely empty. After changing into her pajamas, she collapsed on the bed, tossing and turning for a while but still couldn't sleep, so she got up to find the remote to turn on the TV. While pressing the remote, she mumbled, "Oh my God. This TV is so modern that I don't know how to turn it on. It's crazy." The TV wouldn't turn on, so she had to reluctantly hug her phone and watch a romantic movie to kill time. When the scene of the male and female leads kissing came up, she suddenly remembered his kiss, unconsciously put her finger on her lips, and her heart beat erratically. "No, what are you crazy about, Nu? Don't think. She kept comforting herself like that and then thought about random things until she fell asleep without knowing it. The night was quiet, the clock ticked to 12 o'clock at night, the sound of trickling water and sobs echoed, creating an extremely creepy feeling. She closed her eyes, her mouth sleepily said, "Who is it? Why don't you let people sleep at night? Jia Min, wake up to see who's crying." After a few minutes of speaking, she opened her eyes and woke up. Looking at the empty bed, she remembered that he was on a business trip. She silently looked out at the cold black sky. The sound of someone crying still echoed, making her shiver. She was about to reach out to turn on the lights in the room when she suddenly remembered the red amulet her grandmother gave her last night. Mrs. Cao also said that this amulet also had the effect of warding off evil spirits. Holding the amulet tightly in her hand, she comforted herself that there was nothing to be afraid of. Her grandmother's amulet was here. She began to calm down and listen to the crying again, then muttered, "Damn it. What kind of ghost can cry without missing a beat?" After a while, she decided not to care and lay down, covered herself with the blanket and continued sleeping. The sky was getting light. She opened her eyes and quickly grabbed her phone to see what time it was. The screen showed a missed call from an unknown number at 12 midnight. She immediately wondered if it was her husband's number, then she complained that it was because she had put the number on silent mode so she didn't know he was calling. She pressed the redial button but the result was, "The subscriber you just called is temporarily uncontactable." She frowned and looked down at the screen to carefully examine the number before realizing that the first number 0974 was from Vietnam, so she could rule out that this was not his number because he was currently abroad. Just as she put the phone down on the bed, the screen lit up with a call from a foreign number with the country code 853, now she was sure it was her husband. She smiled and answered the phone but her voice was a bit arrogant. "Hello. I'm listening. Are you awake? I was sleeping and you called me so I woke up. How did you know it was me?" "I knew by the tone." "How creepy. You even remember my voice, crazy. You have to remember my male duck voice even if you don't remember it. You're lying without shame." "I used to be invited to be a singer." "Never mind. I just said what I heard." "But did you call me for something?" "Yes. If I don't have anything to do, I won't have time to call you. So that's it. Remember to feed my parrot and take care of it so it doesn't lose a single feather. Otherwise, you'll have to do it. Is that all?" "Yes, okay. Don't worry." Beep, beep, beep. She pressed the power button to turn off the phone. He sat in the 5-star hotel room in Macau, looking at the clock. It was 6:15, 1 hour different from Vietnam time. He angrily threw the phone on the bed, and was about to ask her how she was at home when the phone was hung up. Damn it. His assistant opened the door and walked in, followed by the breakfast waitress. He glanced at her and said coldly, "Put it on the table for me," speaking in Chinese. "Yes. Have a good day." His assistant smiled and said, "That waitress is really pretty, isn't she?" He reached for the newspaper, looked down intently, and replied, "If you came here to look at girls, I'll let you go out for a walk. That's not what I meant. It's just that seeing such a pretty girl, you're so cold," making the girl's face full of regret. "Pity a flower wilting under the sun, so much talk. Let's go have breakfast and get ready to go to the customer." "Yes. I'll go now." He shook his head and sighed. Then his eyes stopped at the wedding ring on his ring finger. His face became more solemn. This morning at Tran Gia, Grandma ordered all the daughters-in-law to be present at the ancestral temple to discuss the upcoming Buddhist holiday. She spoke sternly. "Being a daughter-in-law of Tran Gia, everyone must know the importance of the Buddhist holiday, so we must prepare very carefully and absolutely not make any mistakes." After finishing speaking, Grandma glanced at her. "You just became a daughter-in-law of this family so you still don't understand very well, but hearing me say that, you know how important it is, right?" She quickly replied. "Yes, ma'am. I know because Buddha saves all living beings and brings the best things to everyone in general and the Tran family in particular. If we wholeheartedly respect Buddha, I believe that our Tran family will always have good things." She nodded in satisfaction. "It's good to understand that at such a young age. Like every year, in 2 days it will be Buddha's day. Everyone knows what to do, right?" Everyone said in unison, "Yes. We know." Grandma continued, "Housekeeper, please have someone prepare a menu of vegetarian dishes and give it to the ladies and aunts to choose a dish to make themselves to show respect." The housekeeper bowed her head and replied, "Yes, old lady." "Who will be in charge of preparing the offerings?" Jia Hung's wife spoke up at this time. "Grandma. I have an idea." "Yes, tell me." "I think the eldest brother is married now, and Yuan is the eldest daughter-in-law in the family and also the eldest daughter-in-law of the family. How about letting her take charge of the Buddha ceremony this year?" She thought for a moment and then nodded. "Your idea is also good. I think it's quite reasonable. Sooner or later, we have to do it so you know. So Juan will take charge of everything for the Buddha ceremony this year." She was a bit confused but immediately nodded in agreement. "Yes. I am very honored to be entrusted with such a great responsibility by you. I will try my best, Mother Hai spoke to Grandmother Hai, Mom. I think Duan has just arrived here, and is still young, so I am afraid that there will be mistakes. Or let me help her. After all, worshipping Buddha is very important, okay? Then let's decide on that. She smiled at Grandmother Hai, her eyes filled with gratitude. She was like a life buoy for her when she was struggling in the deep sea. Grandmother Hai walked ahead, everyone followed one by one. The room now only had her and Grandmother Ba. Grandmother Ba spoke to her in a low voice. Did you see? Last time I said that Grandmother Hai did not want anyone to take her place in managing anything. That's why you have to be careful. Yes, I thank you, Mother Ba, for reminding me. But I think what Grandmother Hai did is very much appreciated. Well, I will take my leave first. Mrs. Ba stood there, pouting, looking at her. This little girl doesn't know what's good for her. Today, Mrs. Hai took her to the market for a visit. It's been almost a week since she's been here, but she's had a chance to go out. Mrs. Hai said, normally, Trangia has someone in charge of going to the market, but it's almost the Buddhist holiday, so Grandma always wants to prepare everything herself. Yes, Mother Hai. Is the market very far away, Mother? Only about 2 kilometers. Oh, it's so close. Why don't you ride a motorbike for convenience? In my hometown, I can walk 10 kilometers. Mrs. Hai laughed and looked at her. This girl is really good at joking. I'm telling the truth, Mom. Besides, I also want to walk around here to know the way. If you like walking, ask your husband to take you someday. He also likes to go backpacking. You probably don't know that he's also a famous racer. Is that so, Mom? But he's probably busy with work so he doesn't have time. Mrs. Hai nodded and sighed, her face sad as she spoke. Yes. If you marry a talented husband, you have to accept it. Sitting in the 4-seater car, she eagerly looked along both sides of the road. Contrary to her initial thoughts, the streets here felt strangely peaceful. The high-rise buildings designed in European style were close together and stretched along the road. The car stopped at the big market. Mrs. Hai said to her, "We're here, let's get off the car." Opening the car door and getting out, Mrs. Hai introduced herself as she walked. This is the biggest market in the area. It's very complete, you can buy anything you want. Everywhere Mrs. Hai led her, people greeted her. She thought to herself, it seems that Trangia's reputation is really famous. Passing the fabric stall at the main gate, the colorful fabrics caught her eye and she had to stop. Do you like it? Yes, Mom. Silk is very cool and beautiful to wear. This is not necessarily real silk, my child. Only real silk is used at home, all imported or woven from natural silk, my child. No wonder it is different from the clothes you wear at home, yes. Trangia's clothes are all selected goods. The two of them walked and talked happily, feeling close like mother and daughter. Mrs. Hai also talked and shared more about the housework. She hesitated for a moment before daring to ask her, "Mom, I have something to ask you." "Yes." "Go ahead and ask. Is your room near the lotus pond?" "Yes, that's right. So did you hear any strange noises last night?" "No." "Maybe you were sleeping soundly and didn't hear anything." "Why do you ask?" "No. It's nothing." She was silent in thought. Her mother's room was so close to the lotus pond but she still couldn't hear any sound, so it could be guessed that it wasn't a ghost, it was clearly someone who intentionally caused it. Moreover, this person knew that her husband was away so she didn't know what purpose he was acting for. But he definitely wanted to scare her to the point of losing her soul. If so, she would make a game to make him open his eyes, dare to joke with spirituality. Today, my group has chapter 20, in the future it will go even further. This story has side stories. In the group you can read the full side stories, whoever joins the group. Please help me to account number 22072053686675, account number Luong Tan Huynh, Agribank, Ung Hoa Branch, Hanoi. Yes, Mom. Silk is very cool and beautiful to wear. This is not necessarily real silk, my child. Only real silk is used at home, all imported or woven from natural silk, my child. No wonder it is different from the clothes you wear at home, yes. Trangia's clothes are all selected goods. the two of them walked and talked happily, feeling close like mother and daughter. Mrs. Hai also talked and shared more about the housework. She hesitated for a moment before daring to ask her, "Mom, I have something to ask you." "Yes." "Go ahead and ask. Is your room near the lotus pond?" "Yes, that's right. So did you hear any strange noises last night?" "No." "Maybe you were sleeping soundly and didn't hear anything." "Why do you ask?" "No. It's nothing." She was silent in thought. Her mother's room was so close to the lotus pond, but she still couldn't hear any sound, so it could be guessed that it wasn't a ghost. It was clearly someone who intentionally caused it. Moreover, this person knew that her husband was away, so she didn't know what purpose he was acting for. But he definitely wanted to scare her to the point of losing her soul. If so, she would make a game to make him open his eyes, dare to joke with spirituality. Today, my group has chapter 20, in the future it will go even further. This story has side stories. In the group you can read the full side stories, whoever joins the group. Please help me to account number 22072053686675, account number Luong Tan Huynh, Agribank, Ung Hoa Branch, Hanoi. Uncle, please go faster. I'll go as fast as I can, Auntie. Luckily, the market was quite close to the house, so about 10 minutes later, the car entered the Trangia gate. Stopping the car, she ran as fast as she could to the back garden, not having time to say much, only having time to say, "I'm going first," to her second mother. She shook her head, smiled, looked at her figure from behind, then said to the driver, "This girl should be a marathon runner." The driver was very close to the Trangia. Up to now, he had been driving for the Trangia for nearly 10 years. He nodded in response to the second mother's words. "Yes, you're right. It seems like our first wife is very agile." "Yeah. She's also very cute." Stepped to the garden gate. She suddenly stopped when she saw Tran Tran standing happily with the parrot, holding a bag of pet food in her hand. Tran Tran glanced at her, smiling and said, "You haven't fed Bei Bei this morning, right?" Bei Bei is hungry. Noticing Tran Tran's seemingly provocative gaze directed at her, she felt extremely uncomfortable. She also answered loudly, "I was busy with work this morning, so I'm going home to feed Bei Bei now." Who would have thought that I would meet someone who didn't ask me to do it and took it upon herself? You really are an unreasonable person. If I hadn't come in time to feed Bei Bei today, do you know what the consequences would have been? At that time, would you be able to bear the responsibility when Jia Min loved Bei Bei so much? At first, she also intended not to say anything more because in reality, what she said was right. The fault for not feeding Bei Bei was hers. Luckily Bei Bei was fine. What was worth mentioning here was her attitude and eyes when she looked at and spoke to her as if she wanted to provoke her. But did she remember that her second mother had called and told someone to tell Cuc? Thinking of this, she paused and thought a little more deeply. Why did she know that she hadn't fed Bei Bei since this morning? From afar, she saw Cuc's silhouette faintly in the laundry area. She immediately called out loudly, "Cuc, Cuc." Cuc turned back, saw her waving at her, immediately put down her clothes and ran over. "Auntie called me?" "Yes." "Come here, I'll ask. Did anyone tell you to feed the parrot just now?" Tran Tran glanced at Cuc. Cuc looked back at Tran Tran and then innocently said, "Yes, Auntie. Just now, Sister Thin told me that Auntie asked her to feed the parrot for her. Have you fed it yet?" "Yes. While we were talking, Auntie Tran Tran happened to pass by and heard us, so she told us to just go do our own work. Let her feed us." Cuc. "Next time, whatever Auntie tells you to do, just do your own work. No need to ask others to do it for you. Today, Auntie is very disappointed in you. Go do your own work." She turned to look at Tran Tran with a bullet-shaped gaze. Let's see if she's still as arrogant as she was just now. "Tran Tran is no pushover," she said. "What kind of gaze do you have on me? Do you know that Boy is not only important to Jia Min but also very important to me? When you weren't even in our lives, Boy was already there. Together we loved and took care of Boy. Do you know why Bei Bei is important to him? Because Bei Bei is the embodiment of my memories with him." "Are you done talking? I haven't said anything to you yet. Why are you answering like you're reading a petition? I'm just telling my servant, everyone has a bad habit and is startled. What kind of person is that, at the slightest thing, they bring up the past? Haven't you heard the saying, 3 days apart, meeting again is already 3 inches apart, let alone you and my husband have been apart for 4 years, meeting again could be as far as 9 layers of blue sky. I sincerely advise you not to beg for the past, live for the present and the future, you? Tran Tran's face turned purple, very unsightly, for years living in the showbiz world, experiencing and witnessing countless conspiracies, but no one has ever been able to outsmart her. Today, being outsmarted by a mediocre person made her want to squeeze her hand and slap the other person like she always did to her subordinates when she was angry. Seeing that the other person was speechless, she held back her laughter. However, Tran Tran is an actress. She was angry, but very quickly her demeanor returned to normal. She swallowed all her anger, her mouth curled up and said, "Let me see how long you can brag." After saying that, Tran Tran walked away. She said loudly, "Oh, I forgot, thank you for feeding Bei for me." Even though I didn't ask, Tran Tran didn't say anything more. As she walked she muttered, "This is the second time you've acted so arrogant towards me. Duong. We'll settle this debt slowly." After Tran Tran left, she smiled and approached the parrot and whispered, "Bei. Sorry, I was careless and didn't feed Bei today." Duan. She looked at the parrot with wide eyes in surprise. "You remember my name already? How good, Duan." She stood there absent-mindedly talking to her friend like a friend confiding in her heart. As she spoke, she put the food ball on the parrot's beak. "The Buddha's day is coming soon. I wonder if Jia Min will be back in time. This is the first time I've been in charge of such a big ceremony in the house, making me very worried. Did you witness so many beautiful memories of those two? I fed you late today, leaving you hungry. I feel very guilty. I'm only partly afraid that Jia Min will scold me, the rest is because I love you." After a while, she sighed, then looked down at the cage pad. "Oh. You pooped all over the pad. Let me change the pad and bathe you." She hurriedly ran to get a soft towel and a basin of water that was always nearby. It seemed that Jia Min had prepared everything for the parrot's hygiene. Then she carefully put the cage on the ground and lifted the parrot out of the cage, using a soft towel to wet it with water and gently dab it on the parrot's body to help clean the body and remove bacteria. After finishing everything, she put the parrot in the cage and smiled, saying, "Now that you're full and clean, let's go back to the room. Goodbye, Bei. See you this afternoon, on the way back." She passed by the back of the maid's house and saw Tran Tran and Antut standing with the 2 maids she met at the lotus pond last night. They were glancing around as if they were afraid of being discovered. She thought to herself, there must be something fishy. Hiding behind the wall next to her, she tried to hear what they were saying, but the sound was so small that she couldn't hear anything. Someone tapped her shoulder from behind, making her startled and turn around. "Jia Long." The others heard some sound and ran out to look around, just in time for Jia Long to pull her into the kitchen, stupidly saying, "Jia Long is hungry. You haven't eaten anything since this morning." "I ate." "I ate, then let me tell the servants to cook you something to eat. Wait here for me." She ran outside to call someone, but when she turned back, he was gone. "Strange. He was just here," the chef said to her. "Who are you looking for?" "First wife. I just saw Jia Long saying he was hungry, so I told him to stand here and wait for me to call someone to cook something to eat to ease his hunger." "Oh, second son Jia Long. If so, you don't have to worry, he always says he's hungry." "You mean he does that often?" "Yes. Lately, I've seen him often going from the eldest son's office to the kitchen." She thought for a few minutes and then asked, "Really? Have you told anyone about this?" "No. I think he's just hanging around." "Okay. Go back to work." "Thank you, it's okay, ma'am. Please excuse me." She walked and thought. Her intuition told her that Jia Long seemed to be hiding something. When she reached the door of her room, she bumped into little Cuc and then she was startled back to reality. "Oh, Auntie. I'm sorry. Are you okay?" "It's okay, Auntie. Are you still angry with me about the parrot?" "No. Don't worry, Auntie isn't angry. Why do I see your face isn't looking good?" "Oh. It's nothing." Stop thinking too much. Yes, I know, oh, right, CUC. Go to your room, Auntie. She walked ahead, CUC followed and the door slammed shut, CUC. Last time, Auntie, I remember you worked here for quite a while, right? Yes, Auntie. So when I came back, was Jia Long like this now? When I came back, he was like this, Auntie. I heard from my coworker that he was in psychological shock over the death of a girl named Juni. It is said that she drowned in the lake while picking lotus for him. That is what I heard. That means that when he was born, he was completely normal and would have the ability to recover. I don't know about that. So in all these years here, have you heard of any ghosts? I did before, but after the old lady held the mass, I didn't see anything anymore, Auntie. I was just asking. Thank you, CUC, yes. I'm happy that you're not angry with me. She decided not to sleep tonight. She wanted to calm down and listen to where the crying was coming from. Although she was a little scared, she was determined to find out the truth. At 12 midnight, her phone started ringing with a very strange number, which could mean that this person was afraid that she was sleeping too deeply and wouldn't hear, so they intentionally woke her up. If she was going to act, she had to act it out. She picked up the phone but said hello in a sleepy voice. Beep, beep, fuck. Turn off the phone so quickly. The sound of sobbing began to echo in the quiet late night. She took a deep breath, mustered up her courage and walked to the window. Hiding behind the curtain she saw the silhouettes of two girls in black sobbing on the balcony of Aunt Ute's room. Dark clouds covered the bright moonlight. She couldn't see the silhouettes of the two people clearly but could see that the figures were very familiar. At the hotel in Macau. The clock was now 1 a.m. He had just returned from work. Entering the room, he immediately ordered his assistant, "Make me a cup of strong coffee. If the eldest son drinks coffee at this hour, it's considered insomnia." "It's okay. I also want to clear my mind and finish a few more things. Then wait for me a moment." While waiting for the coffee, he took out his phone from his vest pocket and turned on the surveillance camera at home. The conversation between her and Tran Tran made him unconsciously smile slightly on the corner of his lips. Actually, before going on a business trip, he had someone install a camera on the mango tree to conveniently monitor her activities of taking care of her. Unexpectedly, he was able to witness a rather interesting conversation. "This girl seems quite good." Unlike usual, today she woke up very early, took a few walks, then wandered around the gate. The lanterns at the gate of the villa were still on, and just in time, the two maids she met the day before were walking in from the gate. Seeing her, the two of them were startled and stopped. First Aunt. She raised her eyebrows slightly to look at them. At first glance their complexions were very poor, their eyes were dull and not like normal, there were dark circles under their eyes like someone who had not slept. The other person's figure, it was 90% certain that it was the silhouette of the two people she met last night. The maid spoke. First Aunt woke up so early today, she was startled out of her thoughts. Quickly showing that she was very tired. I couldn't sleep all night because of fear. And let me tell you something, for the past 2 nights I've been so scared that I cried because of that crying in the middle of the night. The last time the two of you said it, but my aunt didn't believe it. Maybe because she didn't believe it, the ghost came to her and beat her up for the past 2 nights. Hearing her say that made the two maids feel a little more comfortable, and they took the opportunity to say more. "Oh, then you have to be careful, Aunt. I heard that ghosts come to people because they are in harmony with their spirits. Aunt, if you two know a lot, can you give me some advice? Otherwise, one day my aunt will die of fear. We don't know about this, but when you hear your aunt crying, just chant Namo Amitabha Buddha and you will feel much better, Aunt, really? You two go do your work, I'm so tired that I want to go upstairs and rest." "Yes, ma'am." After she left, the two maids smiled at each other and hurriedly went to find Tran Tran and the third aunt to report their victory. "Knock, knock, knock, Miss Tran Tran." A sleepy voice came from inside the room. "Who is it?" "It's us." She jumped up, half-closed eyes, grabbed the doorknob and opened it. "What are you two calling for so early in the morning?" "I came to report something very important to you." "What is it?" "I just met your eldest aunt, Tran Tran's." Eyes lit up when she heard this. She pulled the two into the room and slammed the door shut. "You two met her, so how did you find her?" "She's very tired." Tran Tran curled her lips and smiled. Maybe if we proceed as planned, she'll be scared out of her wits. Is that too cruel? Do you two know that being lenient with your enemy is being cruel to yourself? If you two enter the showbiz world in the future and keep thinking like this, you might be mercilessly crushed. So when will you help us become famous in the showbiz world? Don't worry, as long as you do your job well, I promised, I will definitely help. It's just a matter of time. Right now, we have to scare that girl Duan so she won't be in the mood until her grandmother's Buddha's day. Then we'll continue as usual tonight, okay? Tonight, we'll be a little more forceful. Tomorrow is the Buddha's day. I wonder when the eldest son will be back. As far as I know, in 2 days. Yes, we'll ask for permission, in case everyone wakes up and sees us. Yes, go. Tran Tran curled her lips behind the two maids' backs. What a fool. Without any talent, she still thinks she's famous in showbiz. During the family's breakfast, she sat next to her second mother, opposite her youngest aunt and Tran Tran. Sometimes she pretended to yawn a few times to make those two people open their eyes wide and believe that she really had insomnia. This morning, her grandmother went to the next village early in the morning so she wasn't home, and her third uncle had been on a business trip for 2 days, so there were only a few people at the meal, each with a different look. The second and third grandmothers asked her at the same time, "What's wrong with you?" "Duan," she answered tiredly, "I have insomnia so I'm a bit tired. Let's see where I'm not feeling well. If I'm not feeling well, then ask CUC to cook some black chicken porridge with lotus seeds. No need. It's just that I've had insomnia for the past few nights so I'm a bit tired." Jia Hung's wife saw that and spoke up. "Second mother, third mother, it must be that the eldest brother is away so sister-in-law can't sleep because she misses him." She smiled and replied, "Only the youngest aunt understands my feelings. A newlywed couple will miss each other even if they are apart for a little while." Tran Tran stopped her movements and put her chopsticks down in her bowl. "I've finished eating. I'll go to the studio because I have an appointment with the director today." Mother Tu nodded. "Okay, go ahead." After Tran Tran left, Mrs. Tu spoke to Auntie No. "Oh, right, Lean. When will Tran Tran move out?" "Actually, I'm also embarrassed to ask this question, but now you know that your eldest brother is married, and Tran Tran staying here won't be good for your sister-in-law." Lean's face was a little unhappy when she answered, "Mother Tu. I don't think sister-in-law is a narrow-minded person." "Right, sister-in-law? Oh. I'm narrow-minded with everyone and also easygoing with everyone," she said. "If sister-in-law and Mother Tu have such intentions, then I will tell her soon." That girl was given a lot of luxury apartments by media companies, but she only stayed because she thought that she and her sister wanted to be together for a few days. "Aunt Oot, don't be so quick to blame me and everyone. Actually, what my second mother said makes sense. Tran Tran is an artist and is single, so she really needs some privacy. If by any chance the reporters find out that Tran Tran is staying here, and then by any chance they find out that Jia Min is Tran Tran's ex-lover, of course that will happen. I'm fine, but if someone maliciously says that she's the 13th zodiac sign trying to get into her ex-lover's family, then she'll suffer. And I don't know about journalists, the more hot the article, the more sensational the headline, the better." She said that much, so of course Aunt Oot couldn't say anything and just sadly lowered her head to continue eating. After breakfast, she started to feed the parrots and then went down to the kitchen. Seeing everyone grinding flour to make cakes, she quickly approached and offered to help. In fact, for more than a week, her hands and feet were not working, making her uncomfortable. She just wished she had some daily work to relieve her boredom. She sat down next to everyone and asked, "What kind of cakes are you guys grinding flour to make? Let me help you so you can do it faster." "Oh, my dear. Why are you down here, getting your hands and feet dirty? You should go upstairs and rest. Everyone is working downstairs. Resting this week has made me so bored. Just give it to me so I can knead the dough to relieve my boredom." "Stop it, my dear. Don't make things difficult for us. If the housekeeper finds out, she'll scold us to death." Little CUC walked past her and asked in surprise, "Auntie, what are you doing down here?" "I was asking to knead dough but no one let me." "Oh, where are you going?" I'm going to the garden to pick some green mangoes to make a spicy and sour dish with salad. Let me come with you. Then you come with me but stay under the tree. Yes, I know. After following CUC to the mango garden 1 kilometer away, she asked CUC, how many more pieces of land does Trangia have that I don't know about? Why do I see Trangia's land everywhere? Trangia's land is scattered all over the country, Auntie. She looked up at the mango trees in front of her. This year's mango season is good, CUC, yes, Auntie. You stay here, I'll climb up there and then come down now. Okay, go ahead and climb up. Seeing CUC climb up to the branch, she also hurriedly ran to the tree next to her and climbed up to a branch higher than CUC. The mangoes on this tree are bigger and tastier. CUC was startled and looked down at the ground but couldn't see her. She smiled and waved. My auntie is here, my eldest auntie. Why are you climbing up there? I'm just climbing to pick mangoes for fun. I mean, there are ripe ones on the tree. Mangoes that ripen on the tree are really sweet. Oh. Auntie. Come down, Auntie. If anyone sees me, Grandma will beat my legs. It's okay. Auntie is happy. There is no tree in the countryside that I haven't seen my face. Maybe my aunt is better at climbing than CUC. CUC looked around and quickly picked the mangoes and went down. If someone saw her like this, she would definitely die. The sunlight was shining down, blinding. The two picked a large basket of mangoes and leisurely carried them home. As she walked, she said, next time we go picking mangoes, call me, CUC. If you keep climbing so high, who would dare to call you anymore? I'm praying that no one has seen you, this little girl. Picking mangoes is so much fun, but you still want to pick them alone. CUC turned to look at her and saw that her arm was scratched. She hurriedly asked anxiously, but Auntie, why are your arms all scratched? She looked down at her arm and smiled. Oh yeah. But you didn't know, maybe you just slid down the tree trunk. Thank God you're okay. If you were, our whole family wouldn't have died. When she got home, she quickly walked to the dressing room. Opening the door, she was startled to see Jia Min standing in front of her. Her mouth was mumbling, why aren't you happy that your husband is back? No. I'm surprised. He turned his back and walked towards the closet. She frowned when she saw the blood flowing from his shoulder. She quickly ran to pull his other hand back. He raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at her. At the same moment their faces were only a few centimeters apart. She reached out with trembling hands to unbutton his gray shirt. He quickly grabbed her hand. She stammered. You're injured? Why are you bleeding like that? Without saying anything more, she immediately unbuttoned the remaining buttons of his shirt without any hesitation. His shoulder was soaked in bright red blood, stained red like a blooming spider lily. She felt worried. How did he get injured to this extent? Let me call someone. He pulled her hand back. Don't make a fuss. I don't want anyone to know. It's just a small stab wound. You lost so much blood, how can it still be so small? Oh right, is there a first aid kit in the room? Yes. It's in the corner of the cabinet. She hurriedly went to open the cabinet and took out the first aid kit. First, she cleaned the blood. Then disinfected and bandaged it. Each movement was decisive and extremely skillful. Throughout the whole process, he didn't make a sound, nor did he groan. Only her face was paler, feeling like this wound was nothing to him. But who did he offend? How could he think he was in Macau? A series of questions kept appearing in her head, but she was still busy treating the wound, so she didn't ask much. She couldn't help but admire his endurance. If she did, she would probably scream like she was going to die. When everything was done, she breathed a sigh of relief, looked up and saw Jia Min looking at her attentively. Your arm is scratched again? Oh, it's okay. It's nothing to me. You're really good at climbing. For now I'll just say this part for the next part. Subscribe to the channel and get notified from the next video. Thanks for listening. I wish everyone a refreshing day.